We are now moving on to conveyance calculation number 9 on page 73 in the AAPL study guide. This is the 11th edition, by the way. Now, this fact pattern is a great fact pattern because it allows me to introduce a provision of the lease that specifically addresses this. So that said, let us just read this together. And as usual, we start with A, or Adam. Adam owns 100%, remember we said we were going to assume that unless they told us otherwise, in the minerals, and mortgages his interest to Town Bank on 115.81. So 115.81, A, doesn't really convey, but mortgages the mineral interest to the bank. Okay, that means he acquired a loan in order to purchase that mineral interest, and the bank is holding the loan, and he needs to pay them back. And the collateral is the minerals themselves. So if A defaults, the bank is going to get the minerals. Now, then A leases to Big Oil on May 15th, 1982. Okay, and you guessed it, A then defaults on his note and Town Bank forecloses on the mortgage. That means they seize the minerals. Okay, now, did they take the mortgage subject to the lease, existing lease? And the answer is no, the lease followed. Okay, because A was still the mineral interest owner, he just had an outstanding loan to the bank. So the result is, if A forecloses on this note, the bank is going to own 100% of the minerals, and we, Big Oil, are going to have to negotiate a new lease with the bank because the bank has the right to seize the collateral, and the bank doesn't have to take under the subject to the leases that occurred after the bank acquired the mortgage. So the result is, if Big Oil leases and the property is foreclosed, what's going to happen is that Adam is going to get nothing. He had 100%. He mortgaged it to the bank as collateral. And then Big Oil is also going to get nothing because, again, the bank did not take subject to an existing lease. The lease occurred after. So Big Oil that lease is now void. Town Bank then is going to own the mineral interest, 100% of the mineral interest, up to the point where the mortgage is satisfied. So up to the point where Adam repays his debt, then he's going to get his mineral interest back. But for right now, he owns a 100. Town Bank owns a 100% mineral interest. So this is a pretty severe consequence. And one of the ways we compensate for that is if you look in a typical oil and gas lease, and this is just one that I've put together for my classes, there is something called the warranty provision, and it says, lessor hereby warrants and agrees to defend the title to the lands and interests herein described, but if the interest of lessor covered by this lease is expressly stated to be less than the entire fee or mineral estate, that's the proportionate reduction clause, lessor's warranty shall be limited to the interest so stated. Then it goes on to say that lessor further warrants that the lands hereby leased are not subject to any valid prior oil and gas leases. Then it says, lessee shall have the right at any time to pay lessor any mortgage, to pay for lessor on behalf of lessor any mortgage, taxes, or other lien on said land in the event of default of payment by lessor. And then any amounts of money which may become due lessor under this lease, they're going to pay it then out of the royalty payments. So this particular lease provision is designed to exactly address this clause. We don't want the property to be foreclosed on, and then it goes to a sheriff's sale. Now we're having to deal with someone completely new. Now we have to negotiate a brand new lease with the bank. So usually under the lease will give us permission. If there's a default, the oil and gas company can jump in and pay that note, pay off that note, so that A would still own it, and we're just going to deduct our cost out of the royalty that A would have gotten. A was going to get that royalty, or he's not going to get that royalty until his note is paid back to us, the oil company. So it's a pretty severe consequence, but it's not the first rodeos we've had, so we know how to cover for that. But in general, unless the lease says otherwise, this is what's going to happen. Moving on to number 10.